All right, everyone. Welcome. Monday with Masami today. And today's September 21st. Okay, so let's get started with some breathing. And if you don't mind, just closing your eyes and bringing your attention to your inner self. First, maybe to your throat, and bring that down to your heart. And bringing your attention to your core, your hara, your gut. And just stay with maybe what you can handle in terms of how much you can breathe and how much you can breathe out. Don't force anything too much right now. And focusing in on your inhale and an exhale about the same counts. So if it's 4 counts to inhale, see if you could breathe out 4 counts, or 5 to 5. Just creating an equal amount of inhale, amount of time, and exhale. And then slowly bring your attention to the bottom of your feet. So you're now breathing in through the feet and out through your feet. Maybe 3 more deep breaths, or actually slow breaths, through the bottom of your feet and out through your feet. Equal amount of time to inhale, the same amount of time to exhale. And as you finish up your breaths, slowly wiggle your toes and your fingers. Maybe roll your shoulders a bit. Maybe twist to one side and the other side. So just bring your attention back to your body. And then blink your eyes and come back to this moment. Okay, thank you for everyone for being here with me today. And yes, right, today is International Peace Day. That's a very good reminder, I think. Hi from Toronto, Canada. I love Toronto. That's where Chris spent most of his youth years. He went to high school and college there, so New Zealand too, awesome. I'm glad that when I do it earlier, different parts of the world can join, so it's kind of fun. So I'm glad you're here. And before we get started, just want to take a moment. And this week, I am so glad we're talking about the gut mind. I am just really glad because we went through, I said that we're going to go through the brain mind, and then we're going to go into the heart mind and be very clear with what is it that you really desire in your heart center. That was going to be very important because the process of how to digest that is going to come into it this week. And for me, kind of started out like I got punched in my gut this week already. So I'm just wondering how all of you are feeling as we go through this month. And, I think I did give you a little bit of heads up that this week was going to start up with pretty intense energy. So hopefully all of you took some time to sort out some of your thoughts and emotions and, you know, be congruent with those things so that you can process them better this week. Okay. And just to give you some what's happening this week is that Wednesday, we're going to go into Mercury retrograde shadow, pre-shadow stage. And I always pay attention to the pre-shadow time, not just when the retrograde happens and then when the Mercury goes direct, which is on November 3rd. And yes, you heard me correctly. The Mercury retrograde will go direct on November 3rd. And then post-shadow period will go on till the 19th. So I think it's important that all of us pay attention to kind of, you know, this is a time that I say to Chris, double check, triple check time. So start to check in with yourself a little bit more, ground yourself. Don't get thrown off too easily because we could. If you are doing certain things, double check, triple check. And, you know, if you're sending emails, make sure that the sender is the correct sender. Maybe before you send that email with anger expressions, you might want to hold back for at least a day and sleep on it, literally, and then take your time to send that, you know, things like that. So not only the Mars retrograde that's going to continue on till November, mid-November, but we got the Mercury retrograde coming in too, and other things too. Obviously, there's, you know, I don't know enough to tell you so much, but I know some to pay attention to. And then I've been feeling so much about what's been going on in the world, in my system, in my bodies, in different organs, different endocrine systems, that it helps me to just check in with what's going on in a cosmic level, you know, so I am not feeling like I'm going crazy. So I think that would be helpful, that you check in with other sources to know that, okay, all right, what I'm feeling, what I'm digesting is okay. All right. And so any thoughts on that before I get started in sharing? It's just like, I've been writing so much. I was getting confused my own writing. So let me take a sip of water. And one of the things that I wanted to talk about, I think right off the bat, is that we are going into the gut mind week, and it will continue on, I would say, just to the end of September. So this week and into halfway into next week, really focus on the gut mind. And gut mind is an interesting space, right? It's a place that you digest. Obviously, you assimilate things, you churn things, you break apart of molecules, or, you know, foods that you take or information you are taking in, and you take them apart, rip them apart. So some of the feelings you might be feeling are, and I'm going to kind of list of some of the words that I associate with digestion, and they are chaotic, because digestion in the gut is very much chaotic. If you just have a lens in there, things will be churning. It's like watching a dryer go round and round and around, kind of a thing. Everything isn't getting mixed up. So the churning is happening, and there's a lot of fire involved with it, mixing, and the metamorphosis is happening. So, you know, when you look at the word metamorphosis, I'm sure some of you think of caterpillars and going to pupa and to the adult butterfly. So it's that we're not to the butterfly stage. We're not even at the pupa stage. You know, we're in this kind of a caterpillar stage right now. We're eating, we're consuming, we're taking in things, so that you can energize yourself and you can consume that to make yourself go into the basically a solid stage. And then you can manifest yourself. So it may feel like you're taking backward steps, but you're in the process of really churning things and making things digestible and transforming things, because that's what digestion is that it transforms, you know, your lunch into amino acids, your lunch into essential fatty acids, your lunch into carbohydrates, and into minerals, and then into your vitamins and nutrients that you are lacking or needing. So it's a time of transformation that is happening. And that means the new possibilities are coming. But I'm just going to keep repeating that please look to March of 2021 in terms of your ultimate goals or ultimate dreams or desires, your wish. You want to stay in touch with that, okay? But you're in the journey to get to that lighthouse. So we're not at the lighthouse, but remember, you're kind of getting stirred up. The boat is getting, pushed over this way, that way. You're navigating through this. So a lot of flexibility is necessary right now. You're moving with the current. And some other words I've listed here about the digestion is like it's breaking apart. So you might feel like the world is breaking apart. It's getting ripped to pieces, ripped apart into smaller and smaller forms, or in a major way it's getting torn apart, tearing things, and it feels upside down. But that's kind of the stage we're in right now. So sit back with it and just know that this is a very earthly process, and it's a very loving process. Because if you don't go through this loving process, and I even wrote it on my note that the loving process is in like a capital L, all loving in all capitals, because it's on the cosmic level, it's a divine level loving process on one hand, and it's an inner deep loving process. That's what the digestion is, because if you don't have that, you can't sustain life. So know that you're being guided to go through this loving, caring process. It just feels messy right now, and burning, and it's torn apart and confusing. And, for me, it just felt like it got punched in my gut kind of a feeling. But it's important to just sit with it and say, there's this love in this process that is trying to unfold. And, life means nothing without that love. So make sure you tune into that every time you just feel lost in this transition or in this translation of life. Come back to that love over and over. And I put this week, make sure you revisit your desires and goals and hope and longing, yearning, possible wish that you have, aspiration that you have. And remember that aspiration, that word means to inhale, right? So revisit your inhales as you churn that, and then eventually you will exhale out of that. Breathing is the process of inspiration. So be inspired by your own wishes and your desires also. And then be very self-aware this week of your thoughts and beliefs, sensations in the body in particular, particularly in your gut, but it's small intestine. So like bloating, gas, indigestion, things like that. And because that's going to really get you to start noticing how much is too much. You're going to know this week your sense of limitations right now. And I think that sense of boundaries are going to be very important. Digestion equals also boundaries. You're creating boundaries in how much you can consume, how much you're able to digest, how much you're able to take them apart and make them into usable to non-usable, beneficial to non-beneficial, to supportive to something that will be detrimental. So know that the boundaries are being challenged right now, but your body will let you know. So if you're starting to have some digestive issues with it, then I would just say, okay, what can I do to maybe slow the input? Okay, slow the consumption, slow the putting something inward. And so one of the things that I am going to be, and I have started actually over the weekend, is to actually consume a little less. So let's say on the practical note, consuming less food and finishing your dinner a little earlier, or maybe consume your foods early in the day and then do a little bit more intermittent fasting towards the end of the day, because it's just, we need to allocate some of this energies not only to digesting your foods, but you want to allocate that energy towards healing and repairing and being able to process what's going on around you, within you, socioeconomically. And also you want to have enough energy for you to go through this next stage of, I do believe we're going to go through the next stage of COVID-19 also. So, I'm not just talking to people from the United States, but we all know, and, when you grow up outside of this country, we do know that the politics of this country will bleed into other politics all over the world. It's that powerful. So know that you have the choice to consume them or not. Okay. And I think, when you start to notice like heartburn, that means, or burp, that's the opposite of where you want to go with your body. Body likes to go towards gravity, towards Gaia. So whenever you start to experience things like a heartburn or burp, that's a sign that you're first of all not digesting very well, but you're also lacking in digestive fire, which is called Agni in Ayurveda. And Agni is your warmth, your grit, and then you're also your abilities inside to break things apart into the point that you can benefit from that. So you might want to take a look at how many things you're signing up, how much information you're receiving, maybe even supplements. What I've been doing in the last, maybe a little bit longer than the last week, actually almost the entire September, Chris and I have been actually lowering the consumptions or taking our supplements and really focusing in on what is speaking to us. So, we have access to hundreds of supplements, pharmaceutical grade supplements, and we have a lot. So I can just open a drawer or open a cabinet, and then I have choices that I can look at. But I'm realizing that I only need to take like 3. And that's a very good sign. That means my body is able to process exactly the right amount of things. And one of the things I've been doing is to not sign up for so many things. So, this is something I wanted to address because last week I had that question, and I'll come back to other things I've written down here. But last week I had the question that came in, how do you practice discernment for all this free stuff? And, this is free too. So obviously I'm giving that energy out there too. So you want to discern that too. And you might want to say, I'm just going to watch the recording a little bit later, or I can't do this and do 3 things at the same time. So maybe today I'm just not going to do that. And to be okay with it, because this comes back to the digestion. Digestion can take anywhere from 4 hours to, in Ayurveda, we say 6 hours, but I have actually seen people still continuously digesting 12 hours later. And they're waking up not hungry, they're waking up still bloated. So it's just when you are constantly digesting, constantly snacking. So after I got off the call last Monday and I kind of really sat with that question about how do I know which free things to sign up for? I think number one, we need to remember that the nothing is free, that really nothing is free. There's no free in terms of it's not free for me to show up, but it's also not free for you to show up because it's taking up your time to show up. So really stop and say, what is the cost of me showing up to this? What is the cost of me signing up for this? Is there a cost, for me to do this? And so when I get in rut of, and then I was, and this was in the past when I was doing all kinds of certification programs. I was signing up for all kinds of weekend workshops. I have like boxes of, papers, right? The academic work that I've done, or educations I've been through, this and that. And I look back at that and I know that came with a tremendous amount of cost for me, physically, particularly. And also it wasn't coming from the place of knowing that I am enough. So I think it's important for us to just sit back and say, is this necessary? So same thing you can practice in your kitchen. If you're a snacker, you know how I feel about that. Many of you know, you've heard me say, don't eat, snack all day long, because that gives your body absolutely no time to rest. So if you're doing the same thing with signing up for all kinds of things, keeping your day packed full of information, or something is always playing in the background, then you're not giving yourself, your whole self, the time to pause and to silence yourself. And I think because we're in the midst of noise, of all kinds of noise, more so than ever, it is important that you choose silence over more noise, and maybe become conscious of that a little bit more. Because when you are always snacking, whether that's food or thoughts or belief systems or your patterns or information, then you don't actually get to know your own wisdom. You actually don't hear your own voice. And your wisdom is not something that's going to will scream at you unless it needs to get your attention quick. So it's usually a whisper, and it's very subtle. And so, I work with some people that want to be a published author. They want to do some work outside of their home, and they want to move out and share their knowledge and wisdom. And, oftentimes I ask them, so what do you do for that? And many of them would say, oh, I've signed up for this program, I'm doing this intuitive work, and I want to become so mediums, or I want to be a channeler, so I'm signing up for all these courses and I'm doing this. And so I say, okay, so when do you ever actually digest that information and practice it in you, and then put it through your own wisdom? And a lot of them, they don't take the time to do that. So I think that's going to be very important for the rest of the year, but particularly if you could get that started this week, just the practice of discernment that comes from silence and pauses. I talk about harvesting pauses. So I think that is where I think you would all benefit from, and that includes myself. And the choice that you make should enliven you. When you do decide to sign up for something, when you show up for something, it will enliven you. It will make you feel like there's this ignition of light and heat and fire that goes on right at your third chakra. And because that is what allows you to digest and process it through the body. So be very, very cautious of what and how much you're consuming. And I'm just going to briefly mention this. This will come up in October. I sense that this is the topic I really want to talk about. But there's this acronym called WOOP, WOOP, and it's probably worth looking it up. And it's her last name. I have a hard time saying her name, but I think she's an Eastern European origin. So her last name is Oettingen Gabriel. And she's done some clinical studies on this. Is fabulous. But the W stands for wish, and O stands for outcome. The other O stands for obstacles. And then the last P, so whoop, P stands for plan. And so her whole point is that we need to rethink positive thinking and positive affirmations, because what happens is when you're constantly thinking about positively, or you envision yourself losing 30 pounds by, January or something like that, or you're visualizing success for certain things by a certain time or whatever. Those things are good. Those are wish, right? That you're thinking about it, and then you have the outcome set. But what happens is that your brain assumes you already consumed that. Okay, your brain assumes that you've already been there, and it satisfies you, it makes you feel really calm. Your nervous system calms down, and you feel like you've already accomplished it. So you didn't address your obstacles, and you didn't address your plans. Okay. So I think it's the obstacles and plan that we really need to be looking at starting now. And it's going to the place of, how much can I digest? What can I digest? What do I need to digest? What would nourish me and what would not nourish me? And make distinctions and start to make plans, and the plan for a bigger plan for March of 2021. Okay. And I'm going back up to my notes because I've been taking so many notes this past several days, but I went back and I watched the rest of the Wizard of Oz. So if you haven't, this would be a good time to finish that. And it's the section that when, let's see, I put, it's the location. So your gut, gut meaning your courage, right? Courage, the word core comes from the, basically means core, right? Core of who you are. And that's the location that you create necessary discernment. And this is when you know the truth from the capital truth, T, truth, from maybe individualized truth, and the truth that are deceptive truths that are coming out as truth, but it's actually deceiving us. So making those distinctions are going to be important. And I'm just going back to the notes where the Wizard of Oz, hold on. I wrote a note what the wizard said to the lion. Okay. Oh, he says, the wizard says to the lion, okay, you, my friend, are a victim of disorganized thinking. You are under the unfortunate delusion that just because you run away, you have no courage. You are confusing courage with wisdom. So, I think it kind of ties back into this disorganized thinking, is that, we've been working on this month with the thinking, meaning mind, our brain, and then we're going to organize that. I said process it, right? The first word that I said for this month is process, and then be proactive with it. And then you want to get your heart and your intuition, your guides, your angels, cosmic flow, everything to participate through your heart center. And then we're going into the place of preparing, and then be patient with the process. So I think, when you can get into the courage, which is the core, which is your gut brain part, this is when you can access your wisdom, right? So I have so much more to say, but I think I'm going to check the chat and see what we have to say about that. Structuring one. Okay, yeah. Hold on, Richard, okay? Oh, yeah. I saw the Lynn McTaggart's intention experiment. I thought that was fabulous, too. And then I got a question on the Facebook about depression this time of year. She said, Iris said that what do I suggest for supplements in terms of depression, and said because of this time of the year. And, I think number one, we want to be careful with kind of assuming that this time of the year is always going to cause us to have depression. I mean, that's the number one pattern that I would like for Iris to, to sort it out. Okay. What that means is that you don't want to just go into the assumption that because this time of the year, therefore I am going to have X, Y, and Z happen to me. I see this all the time in my health world, is that people say, oh, the spring is coming or the fall is coming, so I'm going to have the terrible allergies. And why? Really? Do you have to? So number one, get the thinking mind, right? The brain to say, well, that's not what I need to assume. Okay. And then get to your heart and say, okay, I can support that thinking. I am in charge of who I am, and I don't need to go down that depression. Okay. And then go into the gut level. And then on the gut level, obviously we need to look at, when it comes to any kind of a mood swings or mood issues and, depressive tendencies, is that we have to look at what's going on in your gut brain, right? So that the gut brain controls so much of what's going on in your neurotransmitters in the brain. So the things like serotonin is 96% or more produced in your gut. So, what you're doing with your gut, meaning what are you eating? How much are you digesting? Are you processing foods at the stomach level? Are you chewing your food? What are you eating? All that, right? What's on the plate. That's what's going to help you to produce the right amount of serotonin, because serotonin will get converted to melatonin, and melatonin is going to help you to feel that peaceful calmness at night so you can sleep through the night. And if you can't sleep through the night, right, then you're not talking about the seasonal depression, but that's okay, Iris. I think it'll be helpful overall. You definitely want to address your digestion so that you can sleep through the night. And if you're not sleeping through the night, you are definitely going to experience some more depression, because sleep is one of those commodities that it's so lacking. We really need to sleep so much more right now because we're having to process so much. So think about babies. Babies are processing so many things throughout the day. That's why they're sleeping all the time. Not because babies equal sleep, but babies have to process so much all day long. So they need to sleep in order to incorporate that. And in terms of supplements, in terms of depression, you definitely want to look at what you're eating, right? So L-tryptophan, things like that is what gets converted to serotonin. And so you need the adequate zinc, you need adequate amino acids, you need adequate B vitamins, and you need adequate digestive power in order to break apart the protein, in order to transform that into an amino acids. And that can turn into the usable serotonin, okay? So definitely look at what you're eating. When are you eating? And also nutrients like B vitamins are going to be important. 5-HTP, 5-HTP is like a precursor for making the serotonin also. So that might be something you can do. I wouldn't do it long-term with 5-HTP, because then your body just kind of gets used to using it instead of making your own healthy serotonin. So 5-HTP for a while might be good. And definitely no alcohol. If you want to combat depression, you just can't do alcohol, period. And sugar, right? And obviously I wrote down sugar, wheat, and bad fats. And bad fats are rampant right now. And what I mean by bad fats isn't just the boxed fats, like a margarine kind of things, or things are cooked in horrible fats as potato chips or something like that. But seed-based fats are absolutely rancid. So many organic, supposedly healthy foods are now coming out with safflower oil and sunflower oil. I don't even touch that stuff. I just walk straight by those things. And when I go near it, my body goes back. So be very, very careful of the rancid fats. Okay. And I had another question on the Facebook about using the iodine, and that's a topic that I'm planning on covering in October more in detail. But adding iodine to water, yes. The quickest answer is yes. Fantastic to add iodine to your water, and it's something I do basically every single day. So many of you know how I love liquid iodine, right? So I'm not going to go into huge details because iodine is a complicated topic. And at the same time, it's so necessary. But I'm really working on it right now to create some more concrete information on that. So I definitely address it. Okay. And so Iris, just put it on the chat if that made sense to you, of what some of the suggestions about depression I put up. Okay.
Yeah, that makes sense. Thinking about food and digestion and stuff. I guess it's kind of a trick question. I don't know. And it's a little too, the way that I worded it is a little too broad because it encompasses like seasonal, but also thinking more of like holidays, I guess, like that kind of thing. And I know that this season isn't just personally, it's not just difficult for me, it's difficult for a lot of people. So I worded it in a way that perhaps could be more general, but
yeah. So because you said this time of year, so
no, I have a light box. I get the seasonal part. That's like child's play. I'm talking about the big stuff. So.
Yeah, I think, before we get depressed, sometimes some of us get overwhelmed. It's like it's a surge of overwhelm, and then you don't know what to do with it, and you just crash. The overwhelm always happens when we're out of touch with our own bodies. So I actually put a note here. So like I have like random notes everywhere, so I'm trying to compile them. But I put so how to respond to overwhelm is take the care of so I was writing down like if you go to the mechanics and then you bring your car and the mechanic says, I don't know what's going on, but your car is falling apart and it doesn't quite give you exactly what to focus on, it'll just overwhelm you, right? Yeah. So I think, this is where I think what I'm saying makes sense this week and then into next week and into the rest of the year is like digest what you can. Okay. Yeah. When you start to feel a sense of bloating, gas, stomach pain, digestion, it goes from constipation to diarrhea or even starting to have aches and pains between shoulder blades, migraine. I mean, those are all the signs that the body is saying, I can't digest this and I'm absolutely overwhelmed. Right. So you went to the mechanic and mechanic's like, I don't know, you're just blowing up like that. Well, that's very helpful, mechanic. Thank you very much. Right. So tune into yourself and say, okay, where can I start? And then I think, this is the ancient wisdom is that ancient sages and all the teachers have always said, limit your exposures, meaning limit the amount of food you eat, limit the amount of information you're consuming, limit as much as you can to what you're trying to do. So that's going to help, I think, in terms of the overwhelm. And that's going to help you to discern, do I need to get involved in this? Do I not? And Iris, in your case, you have a very thin margin of how much you can consume. So even though your heart is so big and you really want to go out there, okay, you've got to connect the three minds together, okay? And you got to have conversations with the scarecrow and the tin man and the lion and say, okay, are we in together here? Or one only wants to go, right? So there's a scene in The Wizard of Oz where lion says, ooh, that sounds like a good idea. Like he's going to go in and be the courageous one. And he starts to walk away. And then the scarecrow and the tin man will pull him up, and then, Lion is basically kind of walking in air because the two other ones are carrying him and he's walking in. So that's kind of what you have to do with your large heart center.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. That makes sense. I'm definitely feeling just tuning out the news. There's too much going on right now, and I'm just feeling like everything is all at the same level of like crisis, and so it's really hard to even know what to do. So it's a good time to not do anything.
And put this word down: moratorium on too much desires or too many blah blah blah. You just put moratorium on what? Okay. Yeah. And it's okay, because this is the time that you kind of have to go inward before you can break open into a butterfly. We're not there. We have to go inward first before we go out. And this is, it's as cliche as it sounds. You have to put the oxygen mask on yourself first before you can assist others, right? So that's where you're at. Okay.
Thank you.
Yes, you're welcome. Okay. Is Chris? Oh, Chris is on. Chris, go ahead and say something about.
Yeah, hi.
I didn't know you were on. So
I just jumped on from my call I was on.
yeah.
So Iris, it's funny. I was just reading this book. I'm going to hold up the name of it. It's called Nutrient Power: Heal Your Biochemistry and Heal Your Brain by William J. Walsh. And he is one of the foremost researchers on the impacts of nutrients on mental health. And so he actually has the largest private database of information about cases of people with everything from depression and schizophrenia, autism, all sorts of things that are mental health oriented. And what you just said about the holidays and depression, I had just been looking at this for a class that I'm developing. And it says that patients with a history of zinc deficiency have a tendency to relapse during prolonged stressful periods. He says, over the years, we have learned that temporary increases of zinc can be very useful in maintaining treatment effectiveness. I recall a patient who increased her zinc dosage before visits with her mother-in-law. And I bring this up because as holidays come and the stressors that have been building up over this whole year just seem magnified, that's one simple thing that any of us can do. Because if we're in an out of normal stress situation in our bodies, which probably all of us are right now, increasing some of these basic things like zinc can be extremely helpful for your mental health and for that, that feeling of kind of staving off the depression. So I hope that's somewhat helpful. But if you want to look at this book, it's very technical, but it's a very
sorry. I think Chris, I don't have you up. So on the recording, because I pinned myself. So hold on, let me.
Oh, that's okay. I'm all done.
Okay, well, can you write that name?
Yeah, I'll put it up in the chat. I'll put it up in the chat.
Great.
Yeah.
Thank you, Chris. That's really
you're
cool.
welcome.
Thank you.
Yeah, I wanted to pin myself so that nobody else is on the screen if I'm going to put this on YouTube. So, okay. And Richard, when it comes to structured water, here's the deal, Richard. Don't get too caught up in the structured water processing, the portable water structure stuff, or something you put it under sink and things like that. The point with the structured water is it's really energetic field that you want to uplift. And a couple of things you want to do is to, Richard, you're an artist, so you can actually draw some pictures or paintings or colors. I wanted to actually wear pink today for some reason. So probably it's the heart, heart is really wanting to come out right now. And it's the love, really. So Richard, if you could write the word like love and beauty and pink and maybe do watercolor kind of a thing and put it by your water or in the bathroom or, wherever you access water. And also the structured water, you can create that super easily without any of this stuff, is to put a pinch of sea salt. Okay. Just literally put something in there. So I usually put like minerals, I put potassium, I do liquid magnesium type of thing, and I do put sea salt, and I kind of mix it around throughout the day. So it's not always the same thing. And when I do that, I stir it with my spoon, and that's actually structured water. Okay. So try that, Richard, and let me know how that changes your energy. I can tell, Richard, you're just exhausted, just feeling kind of run down is the sense that I get. You just feel like enough is enough kind of a feeling. So let's see. Okay, Chris, you wrote that. Good. Chris, how much zinc should we take? I take 30 milligrams a day. Carla, look at more than 30. That's just right, Carla. That feels just right to me. So, but one thing about zinc, Carla, is that you don't want to take it at once. Like you don't want to take 30 milligrams in one shot. So you want to separate them into 3 times a day kind of a thing. And take it with food in the beginning till your body is adjusted, meaning if you take zinc on an empty stomach and if you feel nauseous, which is very common, then your liver and gallbladder is also congested also. Okay. So, but I would take the 30 milligrams throughout, like separate them into different times. Okay. All right. Let's see. Anybody that has hands up? If not, yeah, okay, so I answered that, and then I answered that. So I hope that makes sense with the 5 Ps that we're going through still, right? It's still not too late to process your old patterns and emotional debris and be proactive, getting involved in who you are, right? Have a daily practice with your life and have participation of not only your now mind, okay, your brain, your heart, and your gut, but you certainly want to incorporate and participate your friends, your neighbors that will be supportive of you, but also your intuition, also be supported by your guides and your angels, and then ancestors, okay? Because this is the time that we're processing a lot of karmic energy too. And you might just be surprised at how much karmic stuff is coming up, okay? So for compromised kidney function, what do you suggest staying away from and then also increasing? That's, Deborah, I think it's a little bit of a large topic, and I need to understand you a little bit more in order for me to really support you, because I don't want to make my work kind of a shallow level information, because I'm not saying that you're saying that or you're asking me that, but I don't like to do that so much. What I can tell you with the kidneys is that kidneys are where our ancestors are. It's where your energy came from when you first entered into this world. They are stored in your kidneys. So your prana is being used every single day from the kidneys, and eventually your kidneys will be done. Then that's when your life on this earth as we know it is done for you. But then you move to the next realm, right? So kidneys are the place that you filter a lot of things, but you want to go upstream, especially blood gets filtered. But kidneys, before you address kidneys, you want to kind of address the filtering system that is above that. Because if your kidneys are struggling, that means your liver is struggling, because your liver is the most important filtering system or organ, okay? That's where it gets sorted out first, and whatever doesn't get filtered out, the liver has to push it out through the bloodstream, and then it goes through the bloodstream and then lymphatic system and so on and so forth, but it taxes your kidneys. So by just addressing or only microscopically looking at kidneys, that isn't going to ultimately support what's going on overall in your kidneys later on. So you got to go upstream with it to your liver. Okay. So that's where I would start. Okay. To see what you can do for liver today. And I think, liver is the big one this month too, because there's a lot of emotional stuck anger stuff too. So do what you can in terms of supporting your liver, in terms of drinking liver detox tea, to more bitter foods, and making sure that your bile's flowing through, all that. Okay. Kidneys are the source of our essence. Yes. It depleted or decreases over our lifetime, depending on diet and lifestyle. Exactly. So it's a gift. Kidneys are like 2 baskets of gifts is what I see. And we take out what we need. The prana gets used up. And eventually it just gets used up. And then you're going to empty one of the kidneys. And then this is what's amazing about the body, is that we go to the next kidney, right? So you can deplete your kidneys quite a bit. And one of my first clients that I worked with years ago was a kidney doctor. And she taught me a lot about kidneys from the Western medical standpoint. But she said you can operate on 20% of your last of the kidneys. So not the one will be gone, and you can operate at that level. Meaning, it's tough to, but I always don't ever address kidneys unless I address liver, and then adrenals obviously too, right? So start there, support your liver. Okay. Do you see anything else? If not, some of the suggestions for this week, and I'll wrap up, is that eat little less, take time for some. Oh, good, Deborah. So yeah, start there. Okay. Eat a little less, make some time to pause. So maybe just start with your diet and say, am I taking enough pauses between my digestion? Minimum of 4 hours, right? Is we need to digest. So please don't eat for 4 hours if you can. Obviously, if you have medical issues that you have to eat, you've been told to eat more often than that, I would actually probably research it and then see what you can do with your doctor. Okay. But every 4 hours, it's okay to consume. But when you consume constantly, it's really exhausting, and you will never get in touch with your own wisdom. Okay. And lessen the burden of the digestive process. So that means information overload and so on and so forth. I've talked about. Allocate the energy toward not more digestion and processing information, but towards quieting down and going into the pupa stage, right? You're going to go inward now, okay? And then in towards healing, repairing, rewiring from the inside out. And like I said, moratorium on too muchness, and moratorium on too much desires and consumptions, food, information, products, Amazon deliveries, thoughts, opinions, commentary, discussions. Just stop, just give yourself some empty spaces so you can hear the notes of the music, right? The music is never a music until there's a pause between the notes, right? And I actually wrote down, this is something just came up today. It's like, dance more, because dancing is a balance act. You can't dance with one foot just hopping around. That's hopping. So dance with both. Dance with the upper body and lower body, right and left, front and back, and top and bottom. Incorporate, integrate. And life calls the tune, and we dance. So allow the life to call the tune, and then you show up to that dance. And because dancing is not a dualistic act, it's an incorporated act. And I think this is the time that it might be a good time for all of you to pick up an old book, or a book on mysticism, or ancient Taoism, or Sufism, or Buddhism, or Christianity. I just read something from is it Michael Rohr? Is that the one? Chris, am I saying his name right?
Richard.
I'm sorry, Richard Rohr. Richard Rohr's articles too, and that's great. You know, he's in New Mexico, but what an amazing teacher he is. So somebody like that would be great. Just don't get stuck in one teaching. Go to many different wise people that are out there. Yeah, Richard Rohr. Thank you, Deborah. Yeah. Rumi. Okay, yeah, that's great. All right. So that's what I have for you, everyone. Focus on your gut mind, incorporate. Okay, for the rest of the month, we're going to continue on with this. And I will do what I can to really tune into myself too, because as you probably could guess, that I can't share any of this if I don't go into my quiet, if I don't silence myself, I don't know what I can share, right? It just becomes too much of so-and-so saying this and so-and-so saying that. And everybody's got their own things to say, but this is coming from me. This is something that I want to share. So know that I'm doing the same process with you. Okay. All right. Chris, anything else to add? Are we good?
I think we're good. It looks like there's definitely some good interest coming up for iodine and how that's going to play into health. And I just want to say as a heads up to everybody, that's something that we both see people are chronically low on. And so this is a big topic. It impacts a lot of our body and mind health. And so
yeah, we're going to do a workshop on that. So hopefully many of you will sign up. This is an incredible information. And I would just tell you, iodine has changed Chris and my life completely. So that I want to make sure we are educating you and taking you through the process of why that is. Okay. So, all right. Thank you, everyone. And I will see all of you or many of you next Monday.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
You are so welcome. Bye.
Bye.